Good morning. I know you can all see me very clearly because I have a hairstyle that reflects a lot of light. Okay, and between the last session and this, I can see we've had a very moving experience and people have been transforming their seats. Everybody can see me? Okay, who can tell me at least 5 facts from the introduction that was just read out? This is what happens when you call a previous TOK teacher to become a keynote. Okay, so some people here have heard me before. I'm going to place this following challenge at all of you. Okay? I'm going to be playing a lot of live music. Right? That's why this session is going to be fun. Sunday morning in Ooty. Sunday morning in Ooty, let me not start by talking to all of us about CAS credits, extended essay, and TOK. Because we are such educators that we care only about that even on a Sunday morning. So let me start with music, and this is going to be my challenge to you. Everybody can hear me in the back? My backbenchers are my favorite people because they attend all keynotes on their WhatsApp. This is audible? Okay, let me see if you recognize the following. If you recognize it, you got to sing it. Shall I tell you the biggest advantage of singing in a group? Nobody will hear you. Now you're alive, okay? Everybody's finished moving, changing seats, sitting with your besties. I don't want to sit here. This is reserved for my BFF. You finished doing all of that? Okay. So in that case, can everybody rub your hands like this, please? Everybody, including those people who are sitting in their WhatsApp and trying to rub their hands by using Google AI. Because Google AI cannot do this, okay? Not yet. So Sanjay and I are going to work on a special project to make Google AI do this. Hands apart, okay? Hands apart. I'm going to count to 3. When I say 3, you clap. 1, 2. The only person who did not clap was Sanjay, and that shows that Gemini is working very well. So again, rub your hands together. Kaiser, let me see you this time. Okay? Hands apart. 1, 2, and 3. The reason I start with this is I'll tell you why. Okay? 1 is to get you off your phones, which is very important. Okay? Because you're going to see me for 45 minutes and then you're never going to see me at all. That's not true, technically. I ran 2 thought experiments today at breakfast. Okay? I'm a teacher, by the way, so I don't know how many people heard that introduction. Ma'am said it so beautifully. I've got lots and awards for doing what I do. So you got to believe when I say what I'm saying, because if I've got awards, it means that I must be good at what I'm doing. Okay? She also said that I've got a PhD in neuroscience. Did you say it? I don't think you said it. Okay, I have a PhD in neuroscience. That's how I got this hairstyle. Okay? And you know something, especially for those who are doing, you're all IB teachers, no? I went to Columbia. Yeah. In a time that Viral Joshi did not exist. Okay? So, yeah, this is going to be one of those talks. It wakes you up, okay, to a lot of realities. I did 2 thought experiments this morning, okay? So, my assigned buddy from GSIS was Professor Praveen, who's been such a good help to me. I deliberately did not tell him that I was already in the breakfast hall doing a thought experiment. So, I stood upstairs first, and I pretended to be somebody very important. Meaning I am somebody very important. But the thing is, I stood there and said, can I have a table? And I deliberately raised my voice, and immediately 5 teachers came and spoke to me. Sir, you are, oh, you are the keynote. Oh, it's very interesting. Then I went downstairs, and I was just friendly. Nobody spoke to me. okay? One of the critical problems we are having also in our country, right, is that we don't know, right? Natural curiosity, the ability to be friendly, the ability to be human, I think are the biggest skills of the 20th century, the 21st century, right? How are we going to be human, Sanjay, beyond AI? So I'm going to talk a little bit about how AI, we have to go beyond it because AGI, I will talk a little bit about that. Why are we forgetting to be human? Which is why I wanted to start this thing. So the title of my talk actually is What We Face Today as a Community, okay? Things have changed dramatically, dramatically, okay? Uh, you all teach Gen Z, so you know this. You all howl so beautifully. Okay. The reason I'm playing this track, the first track was a Chukar Mene Manko, was made about 60 years ago and used about 70 to 75 musicians playing live in a studio, recording with their human physical skills, making mistakes, re-recording, practicing that beautiful thing called rehearsal. They did all of these things. Imagine Dragons did Believer with 3 people and a computer. Literally. Unfortunately, they used your competitor's AI, so I won't mention the brand name, okay? But that is how much the world is changing, right? In all of this, if AI is going to be all of this, what is it that it is doing for education? So this is my talk. What do we face? What we face as a community together, especially if you are in IB, what does it mean for you? Okay? To start with, one more admission, I'm a university professor, right? I teach at Kriya, she did say that. It was around the time that 13 people were shifting from the back to the front. 2 people went out for having their restroom break. Somebody had that all-important phone call to take, and 3 people were WhatsApping each other in the same row. So let me repeat, I am a professor, okay? And I'm going to give a special prize today to anybody who can, by the end of the talk, guess which subject I actually teach. And that's part of my talk, okay? To start with, education has become modular. Do we understand by what is modular? Okay? So I'll take you back, right? Yeah, it is in modules, but it means this, that I'm no longer a history teacher, an economics teacher, an English teacher, a maths teacher. I have to be a teacher, right? Everything is interconnected to everything else, okay? Let's take, ma'am, can I borrow that water bottle? Whosoever it is, it's yours, right? Okay, can I borrow it? You trust me? I may not give it back to you. Okay. Because in Ooty, they don't allow plastic, so we have to hold on to these things. I'm going to hold this water bottle, okay? In order to understand this water bottle, is a knowledge of physics necessary on how to make this? Material science? Water properties? Cooling, refrigeration properties? Mathematics, proportions, ratios, volumes? You need to understand volume of the container. Environmental effect, sustainability. Language, literature, on the evolution of receptacles. How many subjects did I just call out like that? 6, 7, right? In just a simple, humble water bottle that somebody is using, I can use it as a classroom to teach some 7 different things which are all interconnected. A water bottle is not an inspiring thing to talk about, right? Education's modularity is again not new. I'm taking you back in time to, anybody here heard of Krishna Devaraya? Who was he? Excellent. Somebody said he was a man. Other than that, Vijayanagar. Okay, we accept that he was a historical king. Let's leave it there because let's not embarrass people with their history knowledge. Okay? Now, there is this famous story from the time that he was a king that he apparently fell in love with this courtesan. Okay? Fell in love is a very polite way of saying the other thing. Okay? You're all adults here, you can handle it. I don't know, I'm saying such nice stories and some people are sitting with this expression. Smile, yeah. It's Sunday morning, it's in Ooty. God bless Good Shepherd International School. Don't look so sad, okay? Courtesan dancers are not available here, I know. Okay? By the way, when I looked at that expression, I'm talking only about the male faculty here, right? So, anyway, so there's this thing, he fell in love with this dancer without realizing that the dancer was already betrothed to a sculptor, the court sculptor. Without knowing it, he goes to the court sculptor and he says, I want you to make a beautiful statue of this dancer so that I can gift it to her and woo her. Now the sculptor is in a dilemma. If he tells the king that is my girlfriend, he will lose his life only. In those days, there was no courts of justice, right? There was no chat GPT to tell them what is correct and what is wrong. Do you know what is the number one search? Grok 4, by the way, released, 4 days ago, Sanjay? Grok 4 released 4 days ago. You know what is the number one query from India on Grok 4? I have a Manglik horoscope. Can you please help me match this to somebody else? I am not joking, literally. The number of people who are sitting on Grok 4, because Grok 4, by the way, comes with Vedic astrology embedded. The engineers who engineered Grok 4 are also Indian, who have basically done it in order to get married. So coming back to this story, okay? Coming back to this story, so the sculptor thinks of a very clever ploy. He goes to the king and he says, okay, king, this is great. What a wonderful gift and all of that. But you haven't told me which particular art style and art form I need to use in order to sculpt this. The king is like, what art style, art form, what are those things? He said, do you want it in this style or that style? Nowadays we know names for these kinds of artistic styles. So he says, because it's such an important person, an important gift, king, what I want you to do is go study on these styles and then come back and tell me, right? So the king takes it up as a challenge, spends 3 weeks reading up on different artistic styles, comes back and says, I want it in the Dravidian style, where it will follow the Hoysala architecture, whatever he says. And now the sculptor thinks of something clever to say to that. He says, excellent, but what are the mathematical dimensions and proportions? So the king is like, what mathematical? That's all your work, no? Why are you asking me? He said, no, your specifications need to be exact. Do you care about this girl or not? See, that's a very powerful statement to make to any Indian guy. Do you care about her or not? So the king goes for 3 weeks and studies mathematics, ratios, and proportions, specifically with respect to the architectonics of sculpture, and so on and so forth. So the sculptor puts him on a chakkar for 6-7 months, doing these various different subjects. At the end of the 7th month, you know what the king says? Tell me what subject I have to learn next. So the modularity of education is not something new, right? This siloed way of thinking about things, unfortunately, is a colonial hangover, right? Made to make things simpler for the administrative people to grade stuff, and not because of the way human beings learn, right? Every single woman in this room is one of the most creative people in the planet. I am not including men because I will tell you why, okay? Naturally, I expected that, okay? I'll tell you why. 2,200 years ago, in a temple not very far from here, in Tamil Nadu, there's a beautiful little culvert. Culvert, you know what a culvert is? It's basically you inscribe things on stone, right? That inscription is quite funny and naughty. And it says, if the man of the household is missing, the household can function. If the woman of the household is missing, the household will crumble. 2,200 years later, I will repeat it this way. If the man of the household is missing, the household will function better. If the women of the household is missing, 100% the household will crumble, right? Every teacher knows the amount of creativity it takes to manage home, manage house, manage egos, manage management, manage parents, and the one person that we really need to be managing, which is ourselves, right? Not even children. It's a huge, huge task to be able to do all of this and do it with as much grace as you do. And therefore, the next one, Jacob and Sarah will not answer this one because they know the answer already. Yeah, I know you know the song, big deal. Okay. Who wrote the song? Do not use Gemini to figure that one out. Okay. Who wrote this? It was two teachers. Okay. At the turn of the 20th century in Pennsylvania, it was two teachers who were math and science teachers, the Hill sisters in Pennsylvania, who, in order to keep their classroom engaged, came up with a very humane module of greeting them with song. They did good morning to you, good morning to you, good morning, good morning. Now won't you sit down? It was a room of 200 boys, which means there was so much noise. These are not the words, but I'm making up what I'm saying. And that song, and that song is the most viral song in the planet. The most viral song in the planet is by teachers, yeah. Give yourselves a round of applause. Okay, finally, the gentlemen who are finally doing. I will win you over yet. Okay. In college, I told you I'm a university professor. The way we start inquiry, very similar to IB, but it's gone beyond, is by taking each class with the question, what is the problem we want to solve today? Right? If I look at the problem I want to solve, so if the problem is that there is too much of environmental pollution happening by the manufacturing of that particular technology that produces that water bottle, then it leads me into material science, then it leads me into mathematics, which leads me into geometry, it leads me into chemicals, ESG, it leads me into chemical engineering, then it leads me into hydroponics. It goes into a certain sequence, and then we put the modules together. Material science is Shashi Tharoor? Okay, then I will keep it very simple. But I will say this. You're getting the music? The music is not Shashi Tharoor. Music is Anil only. Each and every word, because this is very interesting. Yes. You're saying it because you like me very much. Excellent. So then I will make it simple. Single word. Okay. So ma'am, what's your name? Navjot. Navjot, we'll take which city are you from? Okay, which city? Tell me one problem that you think Patiala is facing today. Floods. Okay, excellent. So if floods is a problem, how do you think, what do you think we need to do in order to address that problem? Who are the people who need to address that problem? Both people as well as policymakers have to address the problem. In order to address that problem, what are all the things they need to understand? Climate patterns, correct? Weather, why this changes in weather is happening, but also they have to understand how the city is being planned in a particular way, why construction is being allowed out of proportion and it is, taking up low areas.
But I'm getting your point. What I am saying, when you are using your wonderful vocabulary, maybe I am missing out on understanding.
No, that's fine. I'm using you to illustrate this point. So when I mention these different things, each thing becomes a different subject. So that different subject is what we are calling modular education, which means that if you did only civil engineering, you cannot understand how to solve that problem. You need to have modules that come from different things, right? Understood? Great. On that point, and this I'm going to dedicate not just to Navjot, but to all teachers, you will all have to sing. I much prefer to be likened to Amir Khan than Shashi Tharoor. Okay. In college, what we are doing is that we are taking up problems to solve, right? We're not looking at it as subjects. I'm a liberal arts professor, it's natural for us to take it like that. But even in engineering, and I work with engineering, what? Liberal arts professor, LAP. No. Within liberal arts, what subjects do I teach is the question. Please remember I'm Amir Khan. Okay. So, anyway, no. What subjects do I teach in college? Liberal arts is the domain, right? So, okay. No, not music, but close. Okay. All right. No. Don't get into that. So, modularity of education. One of the things, if you go on to LinkedIn profiles of people, right? You will see that people are saying they did this, they'll put Harvard, they'll put Stanford. But basically, when you get into that profile, you'll see they've done that 2-week data science module, which is fine. That's also a module, right? The world is changing in such a way that modular education is going to be the norm in the next 4 to 5 years, meaning even within IB curriculum, right? I have a confession to make. I told you I was a TOK teacher at some point of time. I'm one of those people who went to Cardiff and fought because I felt that it should not be called International Baccalaureate, it should be called Western Baccalaureate, because it's not truly Indianizing or Orientalizing itself, right? Because unless local knowledge systems, this was 15 years ago or 25 years ago, sorry. Now things have changed, things are slowly evolving. But we are living in a world which is interconnected. We are living in a world where unless you are able to relate to your local context, that's why I asked you about Patiala, for example, unless that local context relevance and local context social ethos is built into the way a child learns, it's going to be very difficult for him or her to relate to what happens after school. And therefore, bringing in modules of other things is pretty much the way school education is going to shape itself, which means, which is happening in many schools all over the world, which may not be timetabled the way you're thinking, right? We may start each day saying, what is the problem we're solving today? And then look at the subject matters that we need, and you as facilitators will be facilitating discussions around those problems, which means what? You need to be reskilling, retooling, re-educating yourself on how to problem solve, okay? That's the first point I'm making, which is modular education. All right, my PhD was in cognitive neuroscience. I'm sorry, there's no simple English way of saying it, okay? PhDs do that, right? And I put this lovely graph so that you know I did a PhD, okay? So this is showing you how much of the brain is activated when music is exposed to it, right? To put it in data and put it in numbers, if I speak a sentence, let's take a sentence of medium complexity. So who are the language teachers here? Okay, so a sentence of medium complexity has 2 or more objects in the sentence. So let us say I take Jacob and Sarah are 2 good friends of mine who have invited me to Good Shepherd School today. Okay, so it has 2 or more objects. It's got Jacob and Sarah, it's got Good Shepherd School, it's also got the fact that they invited me here today. Now, when this sentence is spoken for the first time, just like ma'am gave an introduction about me, research shows that about 30 to 37 neurotransmitters, which means you'll see only one of these dots activated, okay? Usually when we are awake and alert also, not in 7th period, okay? About one of these dots is activated. The same sentence, if it is sung, Jacob and Sarah are such good friends of mine. I'm so happy they have called me to Uti Divine, becomes a song that I created on the spot. 3,27,000 neurotransmitters are activated in the brain, right? So the difference is 1 is to 10,000, which is why when I do, I'm going to say something, you're going to complete the sentence, okay? Zara, zara. See how you did that? If I ask you first law of thermodynamics, now you understand the difference between one dot and many, many, many dots? Right? TOK still does not, extended essay is still not asking you to do zara zara mehkta hai. But if you actually took that as a problem and actually looked at the connection between neurons and music, it's a very interesting point of study. But, okay, I'll confess. One of the courses that I teach at Kriya, is called Music and Data Science. Okay? Where we look at music as a set of data patterns and study data as clusters, and then take the data clusters and then see how we can represent it again in art, right? The interdisciplinarity of arts and sciences. Why is this important? Okay, again to Sanjay, because you're my favorite person in the room today, because you went before me, okay? Is, on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is very important, 1 is least important, how important is data going to be in the next 5 years, Sanjay? 11, right? So the study of data, and therefore I am using arts as a vehicle to study data because it's an easier way to study data. Because children are able to look at patterns and then using patterns and clusters. So for example, we did a beautiful analysis of the history of South India and used data clusters of how people aggregated in different places, mapped them out as clusters, and we were able to retell history through data, and the whole thing was set into an opera, right? So these are the kinds of things that we are doing in college. It may sound a bit weird and bizarre, but the reason we are doing it is not so that children become opera writers, but because they need to start working with data more comfortably, right? It's like giving a little bit of honey to make the medicine go down, right? Dawai mein shakkar, basically, right? So this is the kind of stuff. So as I said, education is becoming modular. What is this? Okay. Who wrote it? Kaiser? Everybody other than you can answer this. Kaiser is a great lover of music, which is why I'm going to exempt him from this. Okay? Any ideas who wrote this? I'll give you 3 clues. Clue number 1, it's not me. Clue number 1, it is not Modi ji, even though he's superhuman. Clue number 3 is definitely not an Indian. No? Nah. Bach, close. Okay, I'll say it because, yeah. So this originally was written as a traditional, but then Mozart codified it into 32 variations. Okay? What is the variation? Mozart was 12 years old, a 12-year-old boy sitting and writing variations on a simple tune. What is a variation? A variation goes like this. Variation 2. The cool thing about the variations, to complete the thought on music and data science, you can give me any song in the world and it can be combined into Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Because Twinkle Twinkle Little Star is written in a particular frequency. By the way, music is notes, notes are frequencies, everybody gets that, simple physics. So if it is a set of, if I write it in a manuscript paper, you call it musical notation. But instead, if I take it as frequencies and write it on a graph paper, you will call it an integral. You understand? It's just a mathematical function. Music is mathematics, mathematics is music, right? There's no difference. So it is written in a particular functional style. I don't want to be Shashi Tharoor today, so I won't use the exact technical name for it. It's called a homological function. Sorry, I'm not able to help myself. Okay. Once a geek, always a geek. I can't help myself. Okay. And it's written in such a way that it can be combined and played with anything. So let's give me some songs you like, some random song, as long as I know it. Let's do that. So because you're a social science teacher, language teacher, history teacher, whatever, you need to start keeping yourself open. Critical thinking starts with problem solving, and problem solving means being curious to understanding other modules, so constantly upgrade yourself. This is still not working. Can you press the slide when I tell you to? Next. Okay. I dedicate this humbly to Microsoft. Okay, with all this talk on AI, and one of the things that I was telling people I was sitting with is that one of the things that AI is still not able, yes, AI is doing a lot of things, but AI still can't reason for itself. It works on, especially large language models are working on what you feed it. The danger of that is that I can start teaching my AI to cheat for me. We have still not figured out the exact solve for that, right? People are working on reasoning. People are working on emergent behaviors. People are working on AGI, which is generalizable intelligence, but it's still not there yet, right? Which is why we can't straight away import a lot of it into learning. Not everybody asks for prompts the way that lovely girl was asking in the demo, right? A lot of students that I have, especially my students, very clever, will go to it and say, can you write an essay on this particular topic for me and give it to me? And it does that. And when you start training it, it will do that, right? It's not a human yet. It's not a teacher who will say, hey. It's doing AI, not I yet, right? So it means that the biggest investment that we can make, and this is where my research focus, right, is very largely in, is this topic called creative intelligence. So what does creativity mean? We are saying we have to be more creative, we have to be more creative. Creative is a word, right? In schools, we use creativity to mean arts, music, all theater. We are talking about performing and visual arts. It's not just that. Every school owner has to be creative. Every teacher has to be creative, because you don't know what life is throwing at you at a minute-to-minute basis, right? So how do we codify it? How do we crystallize it? How do we make it applicable to education? Next slide. And therefore, there is a model. This is something worth taking photo of. Okay? When you take this photo, please keep it in a safe folder. Don't delete it when you take a selfie with somebody else tomorrow. So what does this mean? Creativity, the way we are studying it, so Professor Shugata Mitra, who was here at Lassi, at Good Shepherd, and I are now working on something called Beyond AI as a project, right? How do we look at the future of human education, given that we have to go beyond AI, right? What is the teacher's role going to be? What is IB's role going to be? What is TOK with all this AI throwing analysis at us, right? What is an extended essay if anyway I can teach AI to write it for me, right? So creativity becomes the solution. We all understand the first part, which is artistic creativity, because we relate arts and creativity. But this doesn't mean teaching children to be better singers, better painters. No, that's not what it means. What it means is, how do we start using human skills like empathy, human skills like recognizing patterns, understanding the order of things, right? These are all also the arts. The arts gives you empathy. The moment I played the first line of music, every one of you became my friends, correct? One line is all it took, right? No matter how glorious my introduction would have been, one line is all it took and everybody became one community, right? That is artistic creativity. It's not about whether I am Amir Khan or not. I can become Amir Khan by just standing here and playing that one line, right? How do we then crystallize it into lessons, outcomes, etc.? That becomes the course of study. The next is collaborative, which I think you all understand by now. When we were all in school, I went to CBSE, and we were all taught to write exams sitting like this. You all know this gesture? We were all taught this, right? Because if you sit like this, it means the person behind you can't see, right? A lot of schools still function like that. Throughout your school, and India especially, if you go to places like Kota in Rajasthan or Rewa in Madhya Pradesh, you will see lots of boards saying topper bano, topper bano, topper bano, right? So if the entire culture is about becoming a topper, which means you alone should be number one, not the person sitting next to you. That's why even in a conference when you're taking notes, you're sitting automatically like this. It's childhood pattern, right? So if the whole of your life is about becoming a topper, and then suddenly you go into a workplace and say, you have to work in teams, you have to work collaboratively, you work with more holistic input. Throughout your life, you've been telling you must be number one. Suddenly you're going and saying, work with ma'am, work with sir, come up with a solution which is collaborative. You're like, wo kya hota hai? Right? And then people go to Finland. You know, in Finnish schools. Yes, the entire population of Finland is the population of 1/3 of Ooty Hamlet. Okay? And we're trying to generalize that for the size of India. It doesn't work. It does not work. Right? Collaborative creativity literally means that from a very early stage, right? PYP, by the way, PYP is one of the most beautiful programs in the world. Right? I'm surprised that these people are clapping as though they created it, but anyway. But I'll tell you this, right? I'll tell you why the MYP and DP teachers are looking at you people and doing. Okay. I'll tell you why. They're looking at you because, no, I'll tell you why. Because this is human evolution. Because as the older you get, some of these things become, children are natural collaborators. They don't care, right? By the time which is why when I do that rub and clap exercise, children always wait and say, but uncle, you didn't say 3, right? By the time the child is in the 6th or 7th grade, they've clapped at 1, right? Because the topper syndrome has set in, right? And it's not the child's fault. It is the way our ecosystems are designed, right? So collaborative creativity is going to be one of the biggest investments. And how do we learn, how do we teach ourselves to stop thinking only about yourself, but actually start embracing the idea of group win and not solo win? And it's very tough because education, the way we have inherited from our colonial masters, is very designed on prisons, on churches, and the military. Everything is rank, order, file. We are still using those terms. Which batch are you? The brownie batch? The chocolate brownie batch. Right? We are using terms. Are you first rank, second rank, or 7th rank? No, he was 5th rank, sir. Right? Everything is about that. Cognitive creativity is that part of your creative intelligence which leads to taking leaps of judgment based on facts you know. It is the human AI. Okay? So here are the facts. Using these facts, I'm straight away able to diagnose what a doctor does. Here are the symptoms, I'm able to diagnose what the illness is. Right? Here are a set of facts. I can straight away give you an insight as to what the problem is. That's your cognitive. How do we train people for this? And the last is the Kaisers of the world. The people who are able to synthesize everything, organize everything, and become the entrepreneurs who lead an entire group forward. Right? And that requires design, innovation, and entrepreneurial skills. So if our school systems are not incorporating these in a modular way, we need to rethink. We have moved to knowledge hubs. By the way, how am I on time? I'm already out of time, right? How many minutes? 15 minutes. If you love me, you can give me 17. 20. People are enjoying this? Really? Okay. See, again, I love PIP group. Right? Can the DPs put up your hands? Oh, unsurprising. Okay. MYPs? See, you know where the noise is coming from the maximum. So they don't have extended essay to worry about, so. They don't have to worry about CAS credits, sir. We have to worry. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, it's no longer universities, right? We were all looking to universities to give us all solutions. Universities are also beginning to realize that it's not about them as an edifice. It's knowledge hubs, which means that I can take one module from Google, which will teach me something on, let's say, data. I can go to Good Shepherd and sit with Vinod Singh and learn something about school leadership. I can probably go to Patiala and learn something about the wonderful traditions of classical music in the Punjabi gharanas that came from Patiala, put that all together and create a discipline of my own. Each is a knowledge hub. So we are no longer training students only to apply to college. No. What knowledge hub? Sometimes individuals are knowledge hubs. Do you know the biggest knowledge hubs that exist in our lives are grandmothers, who are all gone, right? Many are gone. And I asked this in another conference. I said, where have all the grandmothers gone? And somebody put up their hands and saying that they're all watching TV. It is true, because in our age, that's where we got a lot of our family histories, our traditions, our cuisines. We got everything from them, the way of life. We've forgotten native systems of knowledge, right? So knowledge hubs, by the way, so I'm a knowledge hub, obviously, but that's not just because of who I am, but with Crew, what we're running is, so there are 12 institutional partnerships. Okay, I want to use Jacob's stage to announce this for the first time. So Crew and Illinois Tech are creating the world's first virtual tech innovation lab for students online starting Monday. Okay? So what's happening is that we are bringing, so what we are doing that is to encourage startup ideas and innovation ideas from middle and high school students, right? And actually finding it, like, so becoming a virtual Y Combinator. That's what we're doing, right? And a lot of professors are involved in this. That's what we do, by the way. So knowledge hubs, even universities have recognized this. Many universities have created small centers, right? So for example, Illinois Tech, the Kaplan Center is working with me. Syracuse University, you've all heard of Syracuse? In upstate New York. So Syracuse and I are working on a virtual communications and media lab to help children across the global south, West Asia, South Asia, right? Africa, to start expressing ideas in the form of newsprint articles, blogs, etc., so that independence of voices and therefore their extended essays can become much easier, right? So a lot of these kinds of knowledge hubs are beginning to emerge. Next slide. I will leave this slide for a second because it takes time to internalize. Okay? This is what I mean by the knowledge hub infrastructure. Okay? How do we create an exponential ecosystem? I wanted to make a slide that looks like Sanjay's slide. That's why I made this slide. Okay? My skills are not so great on slide making. Okay? But yeah. Your alumni is a knowledge hub. Right? Do you agree? Parents are a knowledge hub if we learn to use them correctly. Right? The reason I put up this slide, now let me make a confession, I did not make this slide. Okay? This slide is from Singularity University. If you don't know what Singularity University is, please Google it. Right? Singularity University is the world's foremost forum for the advancements in technology and education. For the first time, the Singularity University conference is being held in Bangalore in India on August 29, 30, 31. And they don't do conferences the way we do education conferences. They bring the top 10 most advanced computational and technological speakers who do master classes. It's not a conference where you go and say, so which school are you from? Can I have your card? We must keep in touch. It's not that. You just go there, attend class, chupchap, bedke, and come back. And it's very expensive, but if your school can afford to send somebody, especially the science or math teachers, you should. There's even a virtual registration. I'm not marketing for them, but it's just incredible because he's the top 10 people talking about what's happening in AI, what's happening in technology, but I just want to show you the world is moving towards, so Google, for example, has multiple knowledge hubs. I'm marketing you now, okay? They have multiple, unfortunately we work with IBM and not Google, but we will talk, okay? But this is what's happening, okay? Okay, top 10 jobs of the future. Okay. So here's the exercise. If you've heard of any of these jobs, give yourself 1 point. Okay, for each of the jobs, give yourself a mark of 1 point. Okay, quickly, 1 minute. For those who can't read, I'll call it cyber calamity forecaster, tidewater architect, work from home facilitator, smart home design manager, fitness commitment counselor, XR immersion counselor, workplace environment architect, algorithm bias auditor, human machine teaming manager, and data detective. Yeah, when I looked at it, I agreed with Navjot. It looked like Shashi Tharoor even for me. Okay? But now I know better because I do teach data science. But have you given yourself points on anything you've heard? Anybody with 10 on 10? 9? 8? 7? Below that, it's not worth asking. Okay? So let's admit, okay? By the way, I didn't make this up. This is from the World Economic Forum 2030 Jobs Report. These are the top 10 jobs for the year 2030, which is just 5 years from now, which means we are preparing MYP DP students for a future we ourselves don't know. Let's embrace the fact that we are completely in chaos right now, okay? Let's pick one, I will explain what it does. Okay, shall we take data detective? So as the name says, it means that you've got to work with lots of data, but these are the people who are going to study data to find patterns in data and be able to predict behavior, predict what's happening. So it's like forensic investigation, but using data, right? The Sherlock Holmes of data, right? Let's take one more. Sanjay, do you want to help explain what XR is? No, shall I explain it? And if I'm wrong, you can say, not quite in that techie way. Okay. Extended reality. You've heard of augmented reality, virtual reality, extended reality. So what they're saying is that we may not have physical classrooms just like Sonia was somewhere else and then doing this. So we can have 3 different people in 3 different parts of the world, a classroom in Rwanda, and we can actually create a virtual simulation and we can actually gamify the way, so people who work in that are going to be excited. You all remember this beautiful thing called work from home? That lovely time called pandemic, which we forgot, where we were teaching all the nanas and nanis. I literally did. As a college teacher, when I was teaching on Zoom, there was one lecture when I was giving, when suddenly somebody interrupted and said, "Beta, can you go a little slow?" And I said, "Why are my students calling me beta?" And then I asked that person to switch on the video, and it turned out to be somebody's mom. And I was like, "What? No, this is what's happening? Kya hua?" So raha hai. You are telling the teacher this. Anyway, okay, but teachers, this is an important slide. Would it help if I passed on the slides to Kaisar and you can, have this because you may not have been able to photograph this, okay? This is another one, lovely word, experiential learning. I'm almost done, okay? What is the exact time? 10:52, that means I have 8 minutes more. Wow. All right. Not today, about a week ago, I met somebody on a flight and they said, "Sir, I run an experiential learning company." I was very fascinated because I work in project-based learning. So I said, "Oh, good, I should learn from this person." I said, "What do you do?" He said, "We take people on excursions." I said, "Cool, that's cool. So what do you do after excursions?" "Bas wahi. हाँ, sightseeing वो सब कराते हैं." Okay, interesting. और उसके बाद learning क्या होता है? Learning तो खुद करते हैं बच्चे. So experiential learning is unfortunately also meant those people who come to your school and said, "Madam, we will organize the tour to Armenia." That person has also become experiential learning. Okay? Experiential learning is a pedagogy, people. Okay? It's not a company. It's not a gimmick. It's a construct. Like design thinking is a construct. Okay? Experiential learning means that you look at experience as the stimulus, and based on the stimulus, you start with problem identification, then you go into research around the problem, then you look at the subjects needed to solve the problem, and then you solve it. It's a construct, which means today, attending this conference is an experience. This can also be experiential learning. Is it an experience? Yes. Are you learning something? Yes. How do you put that into action? That becomes experiential learning. You don't need to call this a separate thing, right? I'm going more and more to education conferences where I'm getting very scared because people are saying things like this to me, right? We are NEP compliant. I've heard of ISI compliant. I've heard of Manglik horoscope compliant. What is this NEP compliant, right? NEP is a policy, right? Some of it we implement, most of it we don't implement. That's a very different thing, right? Similarly, people are saying things like, we are all about curiosity, critical thinking, collaborative learning, holistic learning, and putting wellness at the context. All these terms are being used without understanding what they mean, right? Because it seems like a cool thing to say. Experiential learning, as I said, is a pedagogical construct. I'm going to place this example, the one before this. Again, GSIS knows this example because this is Jugata Mitra. Is my favorite example in experiential learning, right? That man is a genius, okay? Why? He's one of the world's foremost computational science teachers at the University of Newcastle. He's retired now, and he spoke on this very stage, right? What, 6 months ago, Jacob, or something like that? And his office in Delhi was adjoining the compound wall ke us par. There was a slum, and there were a lot of children playing in that slum. Looking out the window, he looked at those children and said, if only those children could have access to the computers and start becoming more tech enabled. So he decided to drill a wall in the hole, drill a hole in the wall of his office block and put a computer there. Being India, and this was 1990, everybody said, "Arey, chura ke le jayenge. They will sell it for parts. Ye to Delhi hai. Are you mad?" Right? But within 1 month, children had taught themselves how to use Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel. Right? The same experiment was repeated, it's being repeated in many places around the world. In Africa, in East Africa, the same thing was done in a very poor village. In 2 weeks, children have taught themselves to use Python. Right? This is experiential learning. Somebody experienced lack of access, decided to make a solution for it. That construct was designed in such a way that it facilitates learning. Right? What can we do in our schools which facilitates experiential learning? So I, of course, run Crew, which is project-based. Some parts of it are experiential. But there are people like us who are facilitating this, okay? And this is the most important part. With all this being thrown at children, I think we've all forgotten as teachers and for our children what it means to rest and not do anything. Just take a moment to pause, reflect, and say, "Itna information mil raha hai, I need some time to process it." Because if I keep on throwing more and more and more methodologies at you, ye karo, wo karo, isko aisa assessment karo, aisa karo, we are also confused. By the way, we are not as fast as our kids, as you all know. They are born digital natives. We are not born digital natives, right? So I call this mandatory white space creation. You need to create a white space, blank space in your school. Something where the children can do whatever they want to do with whatever you've given them and help them make their own thing, right? In order to give you white space, I'm going to do the following exercise, okay? Everybody close your eyes. This has gone off. I'll play the piano. This has gone off, I'll play the piano. Everybody close your eyes. For 30 seconds, including the people who are not closing your eyes, please close your eyes. For 30 seconds, I'm going to play something and I want you to listen to it. Open your eyes. Felt good? Nice? Okay. We're going to repeat this exercise for the next 30 seconds. I'm going to play the exact same thing. But at this time, when you close your eyes, I want you to remember for that 30 seconds your favorite teacher from school. Your favorite teacher from school. I want you to dedicate the next 30 seconds for that person, him or her, when you close your eyes. Let's go. Open your eyes. Felt beautiful, no? I could see some people are very moved thinking about your favorite teacher. I'll tell you this, for every person that you thought of, I don't think you really know what their qualifications were, how many followers they have on LinkedIn, how many data science modules they went through, what their bank balance was, none of it. What has mattered is that they cared about you. So my wish for you is that 10 years from now, when I ask this question of a different group of teachers, when they close their eyes and they think of their favorite teacher, they think of you. And the bravest thing you can do when you're feeling confused, and I want to congratulate Navjot for this, for being that person who was brave enough to open their voice in the middle of a conference. Well done, right? This is very important for a teacher, right? Is to ask for help. You are not expected to have all solutions. You are not expected to know everything, okay? Ask for help. When you ask for help, it doesn't mean you've given up. If you ask for help, it means that you're willing to push harder to understand something, right? So modular education, which means you need to have your own modular education, start exploring what are the different things. I will give you the slides, different things that you need to equip yourself with, and similarly start experimenting with giving small modules in your classrooms, which are outside of your subject but connected to a problem that you're trying to solve, right? Beyond AI, we need to invest in creativity as a discipline. More of that is coming from people like me. Knowledge hubs and not just universities. Seek out your knowledge hubs. Each school should be constantly and continuously creating knowledge hubs with its own network of alumni, of parents who may be heading companies, of people doing different interesting things and creating these knowledge hubs. Experiential learning and rest space. So if you put MAKER together, you get maker, which means that every international school needs to have a maker space. A white space, which can be a garden, it can be a room, it can even be virtual, and use tools which you allow your middle graders to control. Let them use it as their open space to start creating, experimenting, innovating, and experiencing, right? But everything starts with a fundamental question: what is the problem you want to solve today, right? So for the last time, can you all rub your hands? Hands apart. 1, 2, and 3. Remember that a group that claps together will stay together, and a group that stays together will change the world. Yes, subject. No. Design thinking, I'll give half a point. Creativity, no. So I'm going to disappoint you all and tell you that I'm a professor of economics. So if an economics professor can be talking about creative intelligence and creating a project-based learning platform with 500,000 students, what is stopping you? You are actually dealing with far more creative brains than I do, honestly. School students are far more creative. PYP is the best, right? And no, by the time they're DP, they're lovely. We love them. But by the time they're DP, they're like, yeah, prof, yeah, whatever. Right? But PYP, I do the same kinds of activations, they'll come and hug me, right? So, like this session very much? You want me to play Kabhi Alvida Na Kehna? You should sing that to me, but on that note, can play. Oh my God. Okay, I won't play Alvida Na Kehna. I'm going to play something which means a lot, Jacob and Sarah, and I'll tell you why. This particular song was filmed in parts of this campus and very close to this. Okay? You know the song? You can sing it along with me. Thank you. Very nice. Thank you. Stand up.